I think you're first, kiddo.
Welcome to episode 14 of the Iowa Girls Wrestling Podcast. Today is an officials roundtable. I'm really excited to have 4 guests today. I have Kristin Dennison from Kentucky. Krystal, is it Montalvo from Texas? Go ahead and say it. How is it?
Montalvo.
Montalvo, okay, from Texas. Hollie Brown. Hollie, where are you from?
Washington State.
Washington State. And then Nadine Idhe-Johnston. We'll say Iowa, but is actually a Colorado person. So I'm excited to have you all on here. Would you like to maybe introduce yourselves and how you got into officiating? Go ahead and start with Kristin.
My name is Kristin Dennison, and I got started because my husband officiated in Kentucky when we met. So I followed him around for about 10 years. And after COVID hit, he came, we were working at home. He comes upstairs. He's like, I'm going to sign you up to officiate. I was like, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. But he signed me up anyway. And 4 years later, here we are. So, I really enjoy it now. At first I was terrified. But yeah, I'm licensed in Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee this year. So
very nice.
Yeah.
All right, Krystal, go ahead and go next.
Hi, my name is Krystal. Originally from Texas. So I lived my entire life there. And then I joined the Navy. I did my 8 years. And then I got out. And when I got out, a friend of mine said, you should officiate wrestling. Because I wrestled in high school. So I started in Texas. I did 6 years in Texas. But my husband is military, so we just got moved to Florida, but we're right on the Panhandle area, so I get a little bit of Florida and Georgia.
Oh, very nice. An area that's really growing in girls wrestling.
It is, yeah.
That's really awesome. Hollie, how about you? You want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Hollie from Washington State, and I was a middle school and high school girls coach for about 6 years. But my boys wrestle, so I was missing a lot of their tournaments, their duels, because boys and girls aren't always at the same location. So I decided great way to still be involved would be to start officiating. So I just started 2 years ago. I'm on the peninsula, kind of a smaller-ish community, and just trying to travel officiate when I can, kind of branch out. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and everyone's been really welcoming. So
very nice. Nadine, how about yourself?
You had mentioned something about we have known each other for a while. I think it's been like 100 years, probably.
Pretty close to that.
Probably close to that. This is my 25th season, and I was in middle school and high school. I was a wrestling manager. It was a great way to be involved in sports and do that kind of thing, and just really fell in love with wrestling. My dad was a really big wrestling fan, and so we took vacations to the state tournament in Iowa, and it was just really a lot of fun that we kind of as a family. I have 4 sisters. All of us were managers for all the sports, and when I got out of high school or got out of college, I went to a small community in Iowa and started coached at the middle school level for 7 years, and then moved to a bigger school district. And of course, they didn't need any extra coaches, so I started officiating then. And that was 25 years ago, which seems like yesterday, really, because there are some matches like Hollie or Kristin that talked about, you're really nervous when you get on the mat, and then when you blow the whistle, everything is fine. But there's still big matches I get nervous about, and doesn't seem like 25 years, but then it does seem like 25 years, as we were officiating yesterday in like a cattle congress, and the ground was rough, and my knees and my ankles hurt when I walked off. So yeah, it felt a little bit like 25 years. But yeah, I'm registered in Iowa and Colorado, but I'm also registered in Washington and Texas this year. And I'll be registered after today with Kristin's help in Indiana. So I travel all over and do whatever. And when anybody calls, and especially if it's a girls' meet, I can't hardly say no. So I'm helping, or I'm hoping I'm helping grow girls wrestling and do what I can to help it be promoted. So There you have it.
So with all of you female officials in a male dominated sport, I always ask all the girls this. I've had a lot of girls I've coached in the past, not necessarily on my team, but on national teams, the naysayers, the people that make the comments. What are some of those things that you've heard? And then how have you dealt with that? Just for some new officials coming in, how do they maybe block that out? Go ahead. We'll start. We'll just do Kristin first.
Oh, I don't even know. I'm trying to think. So if somebody else has something off the top of their head.
I mean,
well,
I've had a really horrible comment once. I haven't heard many, but once. I had a kid lose. His coach was really mad. The kid was really mad. And as I was going to the table, the kid basically yelled, "This is why girls don't belong in wrestling."
Nice. And how did you handle that one?
A little unsportsmanlike and go away. Thank you.
Yeah. That would have been a rough one. I can't imagine that he was in the tournament very long. But
yeah.
Hollie, do you got anything that has happened for you that maybe something's happened, and how do you get past that?
The one thing, not so much a comment about being a female official, but one situation that started my first year, and it was my first high school duels, and they assigned me to a duels that wasn't super high level competition. And actually, because our area is so small, I had coached against the coaches of the two teams, in being a coach. So it's my first time on the mat as an official, and they're still coaches. One of the coaches called me to the table, and just and I had known him as a coach, right? So we had that camaraderie, but it took me by surprise because the way he was questioning me was really just he was like it went into a cow catcher into an arm bar, and I was like, no, it was what it was. And really demeaning, really just making me second guess myself. And so that threw me off to then be in the shoes of being an official and hearing the way that he was like talking down to me and what he was saying didn't happen on the mat. And I was just, anyways, that really got me flustered. So I ended up, handling the situation at the table, but then afterwards reflected on it and really just, I have to learn that I'm now viewed differently by these coaches. And so I need to be firm, be sure in my calls, and not let that kind of get under me, kind of that undertone that he had. It really just threw me for a loop. So that always stands out to me, just how, and that's not necessarily because I'm a female official, but yeah,
that's kind of coming from the coach's side into the officiating side. Which I can see that that's actually one of my questions that'll be coming up. So Nadine, you got anything? I know you probably got something 25 years ago. There had to be.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of kind of naysayers, and I had a really great group of mentors, but I think the one that stands out the most is, so we have the junior high official here today. And it just really kind of threw me for a loop. And then I thought, you know what? He's being a jerk about this whole thing. That is an unsportsmanlike conduct. Not even giving you a misconduct. You're going right to unsportsmanlike conduct. And he continued. And I pointed at his assistant. And I said, you need to get him under control right now, or he's done. And then that took care of it. And I really can't understand why he was getting so upset. It was a Peterson. It was a clear Peterson. Kid was getting back points, all that. And it was a beautifully executed move. And as subsequently goes on, he lost his job and then had to go through anger management classes in order to keep his teaching job. So there were some other things in play on that. I don't know necessarily it was because I was a female official, but certainly I was a target. And I think sometimes when I show up, even here in Colorado, when there's 5 female officials, I show up and even at your tournament, Troy.
Yeah, I'll bring that up.
Is she any good?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up afterwards. I had the very first time you came and officiated. The first year we were sanctioned, I have a rather large tournament at our school, about 25 teams. And an official I've known for a long time, actually wrestled him in college and stuff, had said, hey, she any good at all? And I was like, well, she refs a lot of national tournaments and things like that. I think she's done the state series, and then he has never been invited to the state series until the girls wrestling. So I think maybe that made him look at you a little bit differently. So
I that's the comment that always gets played out every single time. Is she any good? Is she any good? But
Yeah.
you'll go to a new tournament, a new guy will come in, you won't hear that. That's
Right.
one that's never asked about the men. Is he any good? No. It's always, is she any good? That's the comment.
yeah,
And usually they see us for a few minutes and realize very quickly we do know our stuff. We aren't going to step on the mat unless we do know our it's the nature of the beast of being who all of us are. We want to do things well, and we're not going to do things halfway and be, that's just all of these people that are here, including all of the people that are involved with the Women's Officials Network. They are, top-notch people, and they step on the mat because they know what they're doing, and sometimes we are our own worst enemy, and our confidence gets a little shaken sometimes by comments that people make, and wait a second, I've done the state tournament, I've done that. I've done finals at the national high school.
yeah.
So yeah, it does give you a little kind of unnerving a little bit, but Kristin actually had kind of a buffer a little bit because she went with Andrew, and Andrew automatically said she's great.
Yeah,
I
what is
know
that?
him. He did.
Like, I know that. There's some husband-wife duos in coaching in Iowa. What's it like being a husband-wife duo in officiating?
Well, at first it was terrible. I'll be honest, because I was learning everything, right? So, we would go to the same events. So, you have a mentor, but usually you can get away from them. So, we'd go to an event and he'd be able to watch a little bit, and we get in the car and we have an hour and a half ride home. And I'd be like, okay, did I do anything good?
So you'd have to replay it all the time, huh?
Yeah. So it's finally gotten to the point now where like it'll be little bitty things, nothing like serious, so it's not as bad. It's the car rides aren't like teaching, and I'm like, okay, thanks.
You don't have to have the lawyer on speed dial anymore.
No.
Okay.
No. It's good. And honestly, like the first, because I did state in Kentucky this year, so my first match, the finals match that I had was with him. He was my assistant. So it helped a little bit as far as like my comfort zone, but because I know how he moves on the mat too. So it's not like getting on the mat with somebody you've never really worked with on the mat and you're like, oh, now what am I going to do? Because this person isn't doing what I want them to do. Oh. But yeah, so no, it's not bad. It was at first. It was terrible at first. I hated the car rides.
Oh, I bet so. So since Nadine's a Colorado person, I am a South Park nerd. I've been watching South Park forever. There is an episode where the boys have it's a gaming club, and they're playing like Dungeons and Dragons and all this stuff. And of course it's a school club. So the girls, they want to join the club. And of course they have to, because, they're girls and they were upset about it. And the funny thing is the girls always start winning every game. And Cartman's statement is, it's not fair. They know all the rules and stuff. So, do you think as female officials that applies? I wanted to show you to make sure you guys knew that I actually have this thing, and I do read it as a coach. And so I try to know these things, but do you think as females, you have an unfair advantage because you know the rules?
That's my number one thing I tell people that I mentor is get in the rule book, be able to quote chapter and verse where things are. The funniest thing was with Mark Kenny this year, and we talked about some situation, that's on the top of page 42, he says to me, and I think, are you serious, or did you just throw that out? That's how we kind of, that's how I gained a little bit of respect and credibility, is because I could quote chapter and verse. According to the rule book, it says a takedown is hips covered on the mat inside the boundary line, beyond reaction time. And they look at me like, holy crap. And, that gained an awful lot of credibility. And it also kind of set me up for, if coaches were going to take me to the table, I kind of had a group of coaches that, say, for example, Grant Eckenrod from Williamsburg, or, if you took me to the table, or Brent Jennings from Osage, if those coaches took me to the table, I probably would want to listen to what they had to say. So, it wasn't everybody taking me to the table, but it certainly helped me an awful lot because I was in the rule book. I spent a lot of time. And I even still do this now, the illegal stuff. You don't see that all the time. You don't see a kickback all the time. And if you don't kind of remind yourself that that's what it is, when it happens, you're like, oh, wait, there's something was amiss there, and be ready to call it when you're ready. So I do think that we are actually in an advantage, because we do, all of us. In fact, Kim has started putting on our chat videos for us to discuss. So we're ready when those happen. We are, I think all of us are a student of the sport, and we want to know the rules, and we want to do it well. And that's, again, the personalities of the people that we hang around with. So
Hollie, Krystal,
Yeah, and that was,
oh, sorry.
yeah.
You guys also feel you have an unfair advantage over us guys?
Well, I never thought about it as like a female versus male, but I do have like my color-coded pencils, and then I color-coded like the little sticky notes in my book, and I showed up to my first meeting and really proud of all the studying I had done. And the guys in my association are fantastic, but I did get razzed a little for like my color coding and how well my book like looked like it had been through a whole season, but it was like our very first meeting and I show up already. But I don't know. I think it's a personality thing, and I had met Kim Hernandez actually a tournament the season prior when I had decided I was going to step down from coaching. And so I kind of like fangirled with her because I knew who she was. And I went up and talked to her, and she had said, know the rules. You need to know the rules. And so I really took that to heart. And then when I got my rule book, I sat there and, color coded everything. And so anyhow, but I want to make sure that I do know the rules, because I do feel like we will get questioned, and I have gotten questioned more than a male official will.
Yeah, I definitely probably agree with you. I think even the first time I saw Nadine, I was maybe a little taken back that there's a female official on the mat. And now, I don't know how many years later, 8, 9, 10 years later, 100, whatever it is, I'm excited that Nadine's showing up, because I know we're going to have good officials. Krystal, do you think you have an unfair advantage over the guys?
A little bit. I'm very vocal. When I'm on the mat, I was taught by some really great mentors to like always say what's happening. And so I could be at the end of a 12-hour day on the mat and I'm still yelling, now 3 red, or, and I'm still, somebody's coming up from the bottom. They're not necessarily turned yet. I don't want to give away control, right? Because I don't want to throw up the points too quickly. So I'm still verbalizing reds in control, reds in control. And anytime I step on the mat, that's one thing that the coaches really like about me, is that I'm super vocal. The kids can hear me. They know what's happening. And that way they can, work through basically getting more points, or letting the person go and coming back, getting another takedown. I mean, those are the difference in the matches now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, you say you're being very, very vocal, and how many times have I seen or tell an athlete to cut somebody because I want them to, because we need the takedown, but they don't wait for the loss of control. Yep. With having an official that's vocal and saying, you're still in control, they would hear that and know that. That's a really good point. I had not thought of that prior to you saying that. That would be very helpful actually for coaching and stuff.
Oh,
yeah. So you mentioned the 3-point have any of you, probably all of you, have done some preseason. How is officiating with some of the new rule set? I know I had a conversation with Mark Kenny about the new rule sets, and 3 and then the near falls, but we talked about that, and has said his muscle memory was a little off because he's used to throwing up the 2. Has anybody had any issues with that yet, or is it been confusing?
I think I kind of have a little advantage because I'm only 2 years into this officiating. So I don't really have any muscle memory. My thing that was really just counting to 5 for the near fall. But other than that, I think that I've done well because I only have 2 years, and well, actually a year and a half under my belt. So
So it wasn't such a big adjustment for you.
it wasn't, no.
Did you wrestle prior? I'm sorry. Did you wrestle prior?
So, no, I didn't. I graduated high school in 1998. There was no female wrestling. If there was, it was a couple girls. So in middle school, my parents would not let me wrestle boys. So I was the manager for middle school. And for whatever reason, I just always was intrigued with the sport. And then I met my husband. He wrestled, and so we put our kids in wrestling right away. And I started I'm the treasurer for a kids youth wrestling club in our area, and then kind of started coaching there, and then coached middle school and high school, got on the mat with the girls. So I could kind of feel some of the moves because I didn't wrestle, but just loved the sport and studied it. And yeah.
Good. Anybody else have anything with the new rule sets, the 3 or the, you go feet to back and now you're down 7-0. Is anybody had anything good, bad, ugly about the new rule sets?
My kids are very young still, so I don't get to travel very often. I've only gone to like maybe a few practices of the kids around here. First time I actually did the new rules, and I noticed in the beginning that I was getting a little confused. Maybe it's just me, but I was getting a little confused, especially when they did reversals, because I was like 3, like wait, no, it's still 2. I'm like, that's the only one that's 2 other than near fall. But I was like, that's the only other one. And then I also count to 5, but I quickly cut that out. So
yeah, I'm probably going to struggle a little bit at the beginning here. The only rule that we've done, I didn't do any preseason events this year. I had to stay married. My wife gets a little upset sometimes. So I haven't done any. The only thing I've done is we've done some where it's the 1 point of contact, and I really think that rule change, for if anybody, it helps the referees. I mean, you almost had to have your book out the last 3-4 years, looking at the situation, deciding, do I need 2 knees? Is it 1 foot and a knee?
Yeah.
Is it in this situation, it's different than this situation. What do you guys think about the new 1 point of contact? I'm guessing it's overwhelmingly great.
We used the 1 point of contact. Kristin and you did it at the high school nationals tournament, and I absolutely loved it. Wrestling continues, just automatically continues. And the other thing that makes it actually pretty easy for officials is stalling, in that, like Krystal, I'm verbal, but I'm not verbal enough that the coaches hear me. I'm verbal enough for the wrestlers to hear me. And I say center, action, that kind of thing. And when you've said it twice and they're still going out of bounds, man, that makes it so easy for me to call stalling. Absolutely. And oddly enough, Krystal, I had the same problem this last weekend. I did the same thing. I called 3 point reversal twice. Like, oh my gosh, I got to get this fixed. But we've worked with the new rules. We had a ref camp here in Colorado in June. And so from then I was able to use the new rules. And so the 3 was pretty intuitive. I didn't have much trouble with that. I didn't have much trouble with the counting. But if there is a lot of action where you go from takedown back points to reversal to back points, all those, and, and it's, in your mind, you're trying to help the table too when you come up and make sure you have the right score. So, it's just a new kind of concept. I really like the out of bounds. I really, really do. I think it like you said, Troy, made it so difficult. In Missouri, they could have 2 points, but they had to be opposite legs. And in Iowa, it was 2 points of contact, but it could be the same leg, but it had to be a knee if it was, and everybody across the nation was interpreting it differently. With this 1 point of contact, that makes it so easy. And the only education I did yesterday was the fact that if they're up off the mat, they're out of bounds. And I had a couple of those situations, but they were still on the cylinders. And this isn't college. We're using high school rules. They have to be in contact with the mat. And that made it so easy for them to understand as well. So letting the wrestling continue, and I think this out of bounds will certainly keep action going. There are periods I don't even blow the whistle. We're done with the end of the period, and we haven't gone out of bounds. We haven't done anything because there's still action continuing. So
I think
go ahead.
it helps keeping people off the mat also.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to get too close and, for example, like a foot maybe touch someone that's just sitting on the side. Because most of the time when we have like a regular tournament, I don't know, you guys probably have the same problem. I know in Florida we do sometimes. But some kids want to sit up against them, the edge of the mat, and they want to watch the match. And I have to walk around them. And so now, because the kids are able to go a little bit farther out of bounds and have their 1 point of contact in, I mean, I wouldn't want to be a kid sitting on the side, accidentally touch a wrestler who's still going, we're technically still in bounds, and then maybe they're working for near fall, and now their coach or whoever's coach will come run over because I've called it out. I don't think people want that to happen. So
yeah, that's a really good point. And not so much at the high school level. We stay back a little bit of ways, but you look at like the AAU meets or USA Wrestling where it's a little looser. You more club coaching than And I don't want to. I'm not bagging on club coaches because I coach at clubs also. But they're a little bit looser in the corner and maybe don't stay in the coach's box, and kids are you get a little bit closer to the mat. So yeah, you're right. That could make a huge difference. And I wouldn't be a very happy coach if one of my athletes caused me to lose some points in a match. Yeah, you very good point. Excellent point. Yeah. Anybody got anything else on the new rule sets? Nope. All right, cool. So I have been coaching girls wrestling for 10 years. And when I started, I had one girl, and we had a club of one, and we traveled to try to find practice partners. And I don't think there was one female coach I knew in the state of Iowa. Now, Iowa had 3,500 girls wrestling at the high school level last year. And I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 female coaches. We're starting to get some female officials. What have you guys seen? What's exciting about the growth of girls wrestling, and what are some things that just really excite you about maybe getting more female officials, more coaches, and how can we keep expanding? I don't care who starts it.
I think just I don't know if it really relates to your question, but a little bit. So for me, from where I'm at, I'm excited to see the growth in middle school for girls wrestling, because as a coach in middle school, it was co-ed. I wasn't just a girls coach in middle school because they don't delineate between the male and female, boys and girls. But when the girls would get to 8th grade, and then they, had the varsity spot for 6th and 7th grade. Well, then 8th grade, the boys start developing, they're stronger. So kind of the strength wins over technique in middle school for 8th graders. So then the girls would lose the whole season. They wouldn't get the varsity spot. And I'd have to be like, just wait until 9th grade. Just stick it out. I promise, wrestle in high school. It's only against girls. And so now to see the growth and how many girls from middle school, we're kind of at the point where we could almost make middle school girls teams, which would be amazing because I've just seen so many over the years, so many girls drop out after that 8th grade year because they just get annihilated by the boys. And some don't, some girls can beat the boys. But for me, I would love to see middle school not be co-ed anymore. And I kind of see that happening. And with more female coaches too, coming forth and coaching the girls. We just have a different level. We were able to reach the girls on a different level. Like, and I was actually asked to coach in middle school because the guys, the head coach, we'd known each other since like junior high, and he was like, Hollie, I cannot deal with the time of the month and their emotions and the drama that happens. So he's like, will you please just come coach and just handle all the girl stuff? So anyway, so I'm able to have like locker room conversations with the girls. And it's just really, I just think it's a different level that we're able to reach them. And I think it's really special too for them. So
yeah, I think so too. I have a female coach on my staff now, and it started as, mom of a girl who'd wrestled since probably fifth or sixth grade, but she had enough interest and she started coming to our practices and finally put shoes on and finally followed people around and started to understand the sport. We help her along the way, but it's great to have somebody that understands those things. I said, I am a dad of two daughters and I've coached girls for 10 years, but there are still things I don't deal with well. But anybody else have something, with the growth of girls wrestling and how we can just get more people to be involved as coaches and officials?
So when I moved from Texas to Florida, I did not know, but Florida, when I came in 22 and I started the 23rd season, I think it was their second year that they had girls wrestling. So they're still brand new. And all I hear mainly it was always about this one fight. I guess the girls got to a finals match and one of them punched the other one. But that was all that they brought up about girls wrestling. And I'm like, well, and I just kept telling them, I'm like, they're new. They don't know what they're doing, but they're going to get better. And this last season, I did the state tournament in Florida, and the girls are still only one division, but they're really great to watch. I know some of the girls on some of the teams around here. I follow them on social media. I think that is what's going to help girls wrestling, because I did it in Texas. When I first joined to the association there, I think there was only 2 or 3 of us. When I left, I had 10 or 11 signed up in just my association. So I knew that I was doing something by like befriending the girls and always showing like wrestling content, sharing, basically like sharing videos of like us officiating, the camaraderie that I felt with the girls in my officiating association. I think that will definitely help when it comes to growing girls wrestling or girls officiating.
Yeah, I know Kristen's waiting to go into a meeting at Indiana because this is their first year of sanctioned wrestling. Is that correct?
For girls, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I have I don't know how involved he is in the high school level, but Gary Myers, our Mayers, in
Myers,
Indiana,
yeah.
he's on our AAU board, and he had talked a little bit about some of that. What are some things that are going well in Indiana to help grow the girls' side of the sport?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't officiate up here that much.
Gotcha.
But Kentucky, I think Kentucky's in their second year of sanctioned. No, hold on. Let me think. Last year was their first year of being sanctioned. So when I officiated that tournament, that was their first year of having it sanctioned. So they had, like most states, they try to have like a state tournament for the girls even before it's sanctioned or whatever. The first one I went to was the very first year I started, and my husband worked it, and they let every girl that was wrestling in the state go. So there was like, I don't even know, like 600 girls or something. There was a ton of girls there. It was like the longest day ever. But it I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting there watching. So I was like, oh my God. But they didn't oh, sorry, I'm in the car. They didn't limit like the number of girls that could show up. So they just let them all come. But like last year they had they had a regional, and then they, the top, I think the top 8 but like there's not so many girls that each region is like it's like two regions are together. So the top 8 from each region came. But I mean, it's gotten bigger. Yeah, there's only I think a handful of teams that have full girls teams in Kentucky, but I think this year it seems like there's going to be more. So, I know for like travel wise, this year Kentucky took 2 teams to the high school duels Memorial Day weekend out in Virginia Beach, which the year before they didn't take any. So, um, they did have 2 teams out there. I know some girls go and wrestle with other teams from other places because they know people, but to have 2 mostly.
All right. After I screwed up, well, welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. We're going to go with, just a new question line. Again, I've been around girls wrestling for quite a while now, and I love that side of the sport for some different reasons. The camaraderie that's involved, how many girls from different parts of the state, everybody knows people. It's just a little bit more family oriented. The emotion is actually really, I think, is one of the best things, different than the boys side, relationships, and the fact that we're building the sport. I know Nadine gets absolutely mobbed every time she walks into a place, and you'd never see that on the boys side. How do you handle, I'll admit, as an old guy, I'm getting a little more sentimental and stuff. Tearing up in girls wrestling, I don't ever remember having a tear in boys wrestling in my entire life. But a first win, I don't care, whatever it is. Maybe in a first takedown, I got tears running down my eyes, and I know you guys are probably getting hugs and all this stuff. How do you handle the emotional side of the sport, or is it just really special? What is really special about girls wrestling for you guys?
You don't handle it because you just, there was a post this morning on Facebook about Des Moines public schools, and the girls were showing up to practice in street clothes. I'm going to get teary-eyed about this too. And so they put an all call out. Does anybody have, they put an Amazon wish list together, and people just started, they just outpouring of, I just can't.
Yeah, no, it's
to try to help girls be successful in something that they want to do. And wrestling isn't just about the match on the mat. You mentioned that when I walk through a place, I do get mobbed because they know who I am. Not just in Iowa, not just in Colorado, but a lot of places. Even yesterday at a national tournament, hey, we saw you at Mat of Dreams, and you just talk and stop with people, and that's really why I continue to be involved with it, is the relationships that I build, not only with coaches and wrestlers, but parents too. If they even talk to me for a matter of 5 minutes, they realize very quickly it's not about the badge and the accolades and and it's certainly not about the pay either that we get. It's being around the sport that we love and being able to maybe give them a little bit of what we've enjoyed for the years that we've been involved. It's just really very special for me. I had a set of parents yesterday come up to me, and they had kept scored for me at Vegas at the Freak Show. And the Freak Show is a 5,000 participant tournament nationally, and they gave responsibility to their daughter of keeping score, who had never seen a wrestling match before. And she's keeping track of wrestling on Flow, which is if you've never used Flow, it's not quite like track wrestling. It's not really intuitive. It's very hard to make corrections. And, we had a barn burner right off the bat. And I went over to her and I said, you know what, we'll figure this out. There's nothing that you have done that we can't fix. So we talked through it. We got the right score. We figured out everything. And then from then on, I went to the coaches before each match and said, hey, I have a brand new scorekeeper. be patient with her on points. We'll make sure we get the right score. No problem. And 90% of the time they were like giving me a thumbs up. Yep, we've got you. We've got your back. We know you'll get the right score. And that brings us all together, that we're on the same team, and we want to make sure the kids have a best experience, all those kinds of things. So those parents were at the tournament yesterday. They had another daughter only in a month into wrestling. I gave her her first win. And if that doesn't get you choked up a little bit thinking about the fact that this is the first thing that she's tried, and I got to experience her first win. And it's just it's unimaginable. And if you try to temper your emotions, you've lost sight of what this is all about. Because I can also tell you, Troy, that when I do get mobbed in a thing, in a tournament, when I'm walking through, none of those people think anything that I'm going to give them an advantage because they know who I am. As soon as I walk on the mat, I have no friends, and they all know that. I give no benefit to anybody. And I think that builds it too. They get a personal relationship with the official, and they understand where I'm coming from. I can't have any friends. I can't show favoritism to anybody, or I've lost my profession. And I have, in the years that I've been getting from wrestling, this is my opportunity to give back. You talked about, the building of wrestling, the building of girls wrestling. It's just exciting. Every chance I get, yesterday there was a team who had 4 or 5 wrestlers on their team 2 years ago, and now they have 25. I mean, that just gets you all gives you goosebumps thinking about the opportunities that they have. And scholarships. The scholarships are going bananas for these girls. Opportunities for coaching, for officiating. We've got scholarships for them to get in and get wristbands and whistles and all of that. And we've drawn attention to, there is an untapped market for the girls that are wrestling right now. And we as a group of women's officials network, we're trying to capitalize on that. We're trying, anytime I'm at a tournament and somebody comes up, hey, how did you get started? Or where are you from? I hand them a card and say, if you're interested, I got a set of wristbands and whistles. Come be with me, and we'll mentor you. And we know somebody from every state, and we can hook you up with that. So providing that support too, and unlike boys, I think that relationship building is so much more important for the girls than it is for the boys. That's just in their nature. So building that relationship with the new officials coming in is, again, our nature. I wanted Hollie. Hollie came to a tournament with me, and I wanted to make sure that she was supported in that. And so she was bold and asked, hey, I don't care about you guys, but I want to be with Nadine this weekend. So, to be able to get some experience with somebody that's been there and done a few things and had a few tournaments and had a few people that weren't so happy with them. And, I think you're the junior high official or the girl ref, or, kind of like that. So, but yeah, that was a long tirade. Sorry.
Nope, you're fine. Anybody
I
else
get excited about this.
Yeah, anybody else have a great story, just the difference in the girls and boys wrestling?
I don't think much. It's like for me, not the girls and boys wrestling, but for when people see me, they know that I leave the ego at the door. I come in, I'll hear you out at the table. I'm not going to be that official that's going to go tell you to sit down. Go sit down, coach. No, I want to hear what you have to say. And if you're right, I will admit it. I think that's the difference that I've been told when it comes to my officiating, is that when they come up, I hear them out. I give, everybody gets a chance with me. And if they're wrong, yeah, I'm going to let them know you're wrong. And this is why I see it this way. But to be lenient, no, I don't think so. Not for me. That's just.
Yeah, I think for me, it's when you officiate girls, and I was a girls coach, so I saw it, but it's different being on the whistle. The girls that hug after, they lost and they're hugging and they're like, you did so good though, you did so good. And or they'll be pinning someone and then they'll be like, are you okay? As they're like pinning them. It's different and it's really sweet. And girls can be tough and
Yeah.
super mean. Um, but it's just that it's a different feel. And I've had a couple coaches that will tell me afterwards, like, we love having you officiate our girls. We just feel like it's just different. It's a different feel out there when you're out there with our girls. Like, we feel like you're just going to take care of them. And not,
Mhm.
not favor either one, but it's just it's a different feeling. And I do enjoy officiating the girls and having them see officials as role models. So hopefully they'll want to officiate. And to add also with this women's officials network, it has been amazing. And I really don't know if I would still be officiating actually, if it wasn't for Kim and Nadine. And them starting this group and having that support because I don't really my association's great and the guys are great, but it's just different. It's very
Yeah.
different to have them be able to understand what I go through and how I feel when I'm on the mat. It's very different. And to be able to have Kim and Nadine and the support network and the support group, it's actually kept me officiating still. And I truly believe that. So.
Very good. Kristin, do you have anything that's like from girls wrestling that really, maybe touched your heart a little bit, or just some of the differences you see?
Um, Not really. I mean, when I started, I think there was one other female official in Kentucky. Um, but she mostly does freestyle, so she does do high school boys and girls, but um whenever when I started, there was a lot of girl stuff going on. So um like the first, I'd say, I guess, girls matches I did was at a boys duel, and they had a handful of girls. Both teams had like a handful of girls, and they wrestled. And that was my first year on the mat, so it was terrible. I'm gonna tell you, I was terrified. And again, I was with Andrew on the mat. He was supposed to be walking around with me, and he went over and he sat down in the bleachers, and I was like, what is he doing? He is not doing this to me right now. Like, I was petrified. Um, but then and then there was some matches. The coach, I got yelled at, but the girls, some of the girls were very competitive, so they'd like get up and they were mad or whatever if I didn't call something right. But for the most part, it was fine. And now some of the girls that at first I was like, God. Like, I don't know if I can talk to these girls during these matches because they just have like this attitude about I don't even know what. But now we have like a junior official program here in Kentucky. And I will tell you that we have how many girls? One, two, maybe five girls that two or three that started last year and a couple started this year that have come back. And anytime I walk into a gym, or they see me somewhere. There's one that lives in the town we live in. So like the other morning I was at the gas station and she walked in and she's like, Miss Kristin. And I was like, I know that voice. And but like I love them now. And and they are. It's like Hollie said, they hug each other. Like I'm sitting there and they're like beating each other up and they get done. They go to the center of the mat and they're both so mad still, but then they hug each other and I'm like, okay. Like I'm just like, whatever. Like I can't be mad at you. But the boys, they'll come back to the center of the mat and you're like, okay, and calm down a minute. Like take a breath. Like you got another match later. Let's get there. But no, see, I didn't wrestle in high school. I mean, I watched wrestling. I went to wrestling matches, but I wasn't involved in it at all. So my experiences of it are sitting in the stands as a fan, watching the official, not really the wrestlers. So
Just a whole different
Um,
perspective then.
yeah. And even on this side of it, like probably whatever. Anyways, so this weekend I went to watch Andrew officiate, and I will tell you, knowing the rules and sitting in the stands and listening to everybody around you think they know everything going on, and half of them don't have a clue. I was sitting with a couple other officials that we have here, and this mom was saying Andrew was doing terrible. These wrestlers over here were like, that was a takedown and near fall, and I'm like, he gave both. He gave both. Like, I don't know why you're yelling. And then I was like, this is why I just sit by myself at these things. I don't sit with anybody I know. I just sit by myself because I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna sit there. But yeah, like the mom was like mad because the kid went out of bounds, like totally out of bounds, and he called him out of bounds, and she said he was still in. I was like, no, he wasn't in. I'm sorry. That was the right call.
When I did my
Like,
podcast with Mark Kenny, one of the things that he brought up is the rule book. And hey, coach, do you know
mhm.
what color the rule book is this year? And so, if anybody's listening, it is purple. So that gets that question out of the way. Whether you've read it or not, if you can say it's purple, you might have a little bit more cred.
Yeah,
So, no,
yeah.
I have a big respect for officials because I hate officiating. I don't even like doing matches in my room. I absolutely hate officiating. So I really care a lot about it. But I do talk to a lot of officials, and it's one of the things that I think has really helped me as a coach is in learning and understanding the rules. With the Women's Officials Network, I think it would be a wonderful thing if we could figure out a way to include uh, new coaches or just coaches in general in discussions about wrestling and the rules. So I want to give everybody a chance, and maybe Nadine, since I know that I don't know, I know you're very involved in the Women's Officials Network, but to explain a little bit about what that was or what that is, how to get involved. We're going to do that clinic at my youth tournament that, I got to get on that. I'm way behind, but we'll get people signed up. I have a bunch that already want to sign up. I just don't have them signed up yet. So you're going to do a clinic there. Maybe explain what the Women's Officials Network is and how it's going to empower young women to be officials in their states.
So this was a brainchild after a tournament. I Kim reminds me that we were sitting around after a tournament was over, and I think this is the really kind of great thing. We have pockets in this nation where they let us come and stay, and they let us come all kind of stay together, which is fantastic. Lanny Brand is one of those people that has someplace set up, and if there's a group of girls coming, he'll say, the girls are staying with us, and kind of thing, and we get to hang out with Jody, and so it's just really great. But it kind of came out of, with technology as it is right now. Barb Brummett, who is in Missouri, who has been officiating longer than I have, we talked about the fact that where would we have been, or where would we be now had we had the ability technology wise to connect across the nation? And 25 years ago, I was really one of the only ones, and Barb was another one. And I just heard of this, this person, this being that was doing really well in Missouri, and I'm in Iowa, and I'm just plugging away, and it just felt like I was kind of I was by an island by myself. And so Kim and I kind of got to thinking about it, along with Kristin and along with Josie Walk and Krystal. And we just kind of kept thinking about, is there a way that we can, there's so many people that were involved in that too. Erica was another kind of person too. And, all of that, how can we make this so that we can support everybody, but be in our own world and try to figure out all of that? And I think Hollie really is a product of that. We heard of Hollie. We invited her to kind of come along with us. And I had no idea that it was so impactful for you. I appreciate you telling me that. But that's really kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to have a support underneath the girders, underneath females who want to come out and they want to officiate, because it's not an easy sport. And it's not an easy sport to officiate, and it's not an easy sport to participate in, and it's not an easy sport for female to break into, especially in this. You think about Iowa. There are a few other women that are officiating right now, but I was the only one for 19 years. And again, if I asked somebody about what kind of pants they were wearing, just go down to the local Shields and get some officiating pants. Well, the smallest size on that is a 32 when I have a 26 waist. It's just, that's not going to work for me. And that's what we were talking about on this. And Kim or anybody else will talk about things like, what kind of shoes do you wear? Or what's the best sports bra? And that's not something I'm going to ask Bob Murphy. It's just not going to happen. Or the best place to buy your pants, or the fact that Kim approached Cliff Keen to get women's cut officiating shirts, because I've worn a men's small my entire career and it goes down to my knees. So, the whole idea was that we were going to present a place where people could come. And in fact, we had this last video that Kim sent out. One of the new gals, Jillian, put in there, "I'm so glad we have this, because I wouldn't feel comfortable posting or asking a question on the Facebook group, officials only Facebook group." And again, we're talking officials that are only officiating wrestling. And she felt a little intimidated by the fact that she was going to put something on that, but she could post it with us and feel supported, or have her question asked, or not, kind of thing. And I think those kinds of intimidation things still exist. I don't think it's on purpose, but I think they do, just because of the nature of the beast. So that was really what we had hoped to do. Kim and I also hope to do some clinics around the nation when people asked. You can have referees clinics all over, but you can have a little bit more credibility if you have a female doing a female referees clinic. I think it provides, I've been there, I've done some things, I have an opportunity to share some experiences with you. And this is, if you have any questions, I always offer it. If you have any questions, send me an email, send me a text, do what I'm usually up weird hours. So I can answer when things are kind of weird for you. You have a situation and you feel more comfortable asking us, we're happy to oblige. We're happy to do that. So it really, I think we've kind of had that chat group probably about 2 years, and then Kim put a name on it, and I think it's a wonderful name. It's Women's Officials Network, W.O.N. And my husband talks about that. No, he kind of throws that out, which is really kind of, is this part of that one group? And I said, yeah, that is. And that it gives kind of a face to it. And then we have an email group that if somebody's interested in becoming an official, we can hook them up with wherever you are in whatever state you are. So say, for example, in Washington, in Hollie's state, I know that if I have a new female official, I have Hollie there, I have Kayla there, and I can hook them up with them, or I have Dan Johnson, who is there as well. And Timmy Douglas isn't too far away either. And those guys are kind of ones that we know are helpful, and their egos are set aside. They're going to be able to help a young official really have those critical conversations with them. And that's really what we want. We don't want to kind of pat them on the head and say, you're doing a great job, when maybe they aren't doing a great job, and give them some valuable feedback. In Colorado, they can get a hold of, I'll mentor them while I'm here. But if they're in Fort Collins, I'll hook them up with Steve Jordan, or Steve Gottlieb, or some of those people that are around the state. Or in Florida, I know Adam is there in Florida, as well as Krystal. So that we have the opportunity to, because we've joined all across the nation, we have pockets of people everywhere that can provide some mentorship. And I think that's really was ultimately our goal, is to help and support and give them a forum, because if they don't feel comfortable asking questions, then they have a place to go that they can ask questions and actually check their thinking. Some of the videos that we had, I threw myself under the bus. I called something wrong. I called it fleeing when it should have been stalling. But ultimately, we're learning from that. We're getting ready for our season, and that's where we want to go with that. So it's the Women's Officials Network at gmail.com, and it's all one word. And they can email us, and Kim will hook whoever up wherever they are, depending upon where they're located locally. So that's kind of where we're at. Where it's growing. We have, I think of last check, I think I had 42 members on our group chat. And then regionally, we tried to hook people up regionally. Krystal is a regional lead in the southern states. Kristin is kind of the mid states, Ohio, Kentucky. I'm the western states, including Hollie and Washington, California, Utah, Idaho, all that. And then Susanna is out east on the eastern coast. Susanna is also our freestyle kind of expert too. She was an Olympic referee this year in Paris, and we count ourselves extremely lucky to have her part of our group. And freestyle is just another beast. And without having much experience with freestyle, I just don't think I'm very good at it. And I can pose questions to her all the time about freestyle and the best way to call things and where to get some education on stuff. So I think we have a diverse group. We have people coming in their very first year to 5 years to 10. Barb is, she's 28 or 29 years, I think, in it. 97, I think, is when she started. And then, we have kind of a whole diversity of people. Some of them wrestled, some of them didn't wrestle, some of them had kids wrestling. It's a very diverse group that someone can find somebody to kind of connect with. And that was really ultimately our goal. So
very, very, very good. That's awesome. I want to give everybody an opportunity to kind of give a final thought in our whole thing. So why don't we start with Krystal? And go ahead. It doesn't have to be anything profound or anything, but just some stuff that maybe you want to let everybody know.
I'm just really excited for the season. I'm excited for these new points, the way we're given points now. I did a little bit of college, so I kind of had gotten, my feet wet there, but yeah, I'm really excited to see how that goes. Our network, great. There have been times when, you want to post a video or you don't want to get like bashed. I think that's the difference between putting something, especially on the internet, in that Facebook group compared to our group. Nadine went and put herself out there. She showed a video of herself. That's hard to do. And to have your peers critique you is sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking. So seeing it from her perspective, getting an idea of why she called what she called, and then of course, like, we all jump in with our little tidbits, but it's done in a way where it's not demeaning. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a video go up there and it's rough. It's really rough. And I've been on there once or twice. Yeah, it's not a nice.
Those groups are rough. I'm in a lot of different groups, and I'm very choosy on what I post and what I comment, because it's just I don't pay that much attention to the comments, but boy, you can get raked across the coals really quick.
Oh yeah.
So, Hollie, do you got any final thoughts for us? Anything that's very you have to do something profound, since you're sitting there in the nice weather, the beautiful outdoors, and we're all freezing in the Midwest.
I know the weather here in San Diego is wonderful. I'm looking forward to the season, because this season is different than last. This season I went to New Mexico, San Diego, and Indiana, and I got to work with Kim and Nadine. And feel like I just have so many more tools under my belt, more confidence. And so I'm just really looking forward to the season. And again, I'm not just saying this, but this Women's Officials Network has really, really been, it's going to be the foundation of my officiating. And so I'm just really looking forward to taking what they've given me. Kim was very straightforward and hard on me in New Mexico, and I appreciated that. I had been wanting that. I hated the pats on the head and like, oh, Hollie, you're just doing great. You're doing great. And I was like, no, I really want something. And Kim
Mhm.
gave it to me in New Mexico, and it's it was great. So I'm really appreciative for this group and the people that I've gotten to know. So looking forward to the season for sure.
Very good. How about you, Kristin? Any final thoughts for us?
Um, I mean, I don't know. I mean, as far as like, getting, if there, women or girls that want to get started, right? Girlfriends, wives, moms, like you don't have to wrestle to do it. Like Hollie's doing it, she didn't wrestle. Nadine's doing it, she never wrestled. I never wrestled. I really wasn't even involved in it until just watching Andrew officiate. So, I mean, I think like for me, the hardest part of starting was every move that you all talk about. If you asked me what it was, I wouldn't be able to tell you what it is. I could see it on the mat, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'll probably get it wrong. But I had to learn all that. I had to learn everything that most wrestlers are going to have a head start on. Or if you've been involved in it long enough, you're going to know that stuff. So that's been my struggle. But I'll say that if I had to do it over again, I would have just been like, yeah, go ahead and sign me up. I wouldn't have been like, no, that's not a good idea. Because I will say the people that I've met in the last 4 years, in Kentucky, outside of Kentucky, everywhere. It's really, truly like probably like one of the best things that's ever happened. So, you have people everywhere. So I could be driving somewhere and somebody will be like, hey, if you're in the area, let me know, or if you need anything coming through, So it's nice to know that even if you work one tournament here and don't see them again for another year or whatever, like you have that relationship with them that if you need something, you can count on them to tell you. So,
Very
yeah.
good. Very good. Nadine, any profound statements from Colorado?
Well, Troy, I appreciate you giving us a forum to talk about what we can do. It's very, very much appreciated. And I just want to invite anybody who's even has an inkling, like Kristin talked about, anybody that has any kind of interest in it at all, come and we'll support you. We'll give you the tools that you need. We'll help you with the tough calls. We'll get you, traveling is an opportunity, but we have plenty of local tournaments wherever you are that we can
Yeah.
get you on the mat and do that. Middle school is screaming for officials, and especially if you have kind of a work schedule that you can kind of come and go a little bit. Those middle school matches get you all kinds of experience because number one, they do everything wrong, and you'll remember how to what the rules are.
Mhm.
A full Nelson or locking hands, and all of those kinds of things they do wrong. So that's great. Kids tournaments are always looking for officials. When I started, I called up tournaments and said, hey, I just want to get some mat time. I'll come and do your tournament. Is that okay? And then people started hearing that, and then they started calling me, can you just come and do our tournament? And that just gets you an opportunity to get more mat time. And I want to invite anybody who even has any kind of interest in it, and we'll teach you how to do it. We'll give you the tools, and we're happy to have anybody come. And we want, especially those girls that are wrestling right now, you're ahead of the game. In my book, you're ahead of my game, because like Kristin, I didn't wrestle, and I didn't have the experience of how leverage works, and had to kind of learn that along my way. So yeah. So, and Troy, we're going to have a barn burner of a clinic in Ridgeview. So I'm looking forward to that too.
That is going to be a crazy weekend, and I'm going to regret that in that week, because just so everybody knows, we're going to have our varsity tournament, which is about 25 teams on Saturday. Sunday, we have officials clinic, and I also have Abby McIntyre, who's ranked second in the nation, coming to do a girls clinic. And then at noon, we're going to start our first ever all girls youth tournament, or youth through eighth grade tournament. The very next day, we now have a round robin JV tournament. And the day after that, Nadine and I will also be together at Iowa Central for what was originally the East-West duels, but I now believe they call it the Triton duels. So 4 straight days.
Oh, wow.
Of me. He'll have to deal with me 4 straight days.
Yes. And as I'm looking at my schedule, I'm like, oh, thank God it's Thanksgiving after that, because I'm going to need it. So, but I want to thank each and every one of you so much. I appreciate everything you do in the sport. I see myself, as I'm a male coach in the girls' world here. So I kind of see myself as a placeholder, and I see you as the people that they look up to, the ones that they can see themselves in, and they can see themselves become much more than they are. Because we know this sport is tough. Officiating the sport is tough. Coaching the sport is tough. But it's not so much about the sport. It's about making those girls just better people. And that's what it's really about and stuff. So I want to thank you all for doing this. I'm going to hit the stop button on our record and not being interrupted, but I'll stick around for a minute or two and we can talk.